Suddenly a bus coming so close to a truck, and it was literally a near miss. And these are exactly the scenarios that we want to generate with real world data. That's the new direction that we're going with VX360. Today it's not that easy to test it. You have to build the car, ship it around, let the car drive thousands or even millions of kilometers to reproduce those near miss scenarios. We just want to capture it with 360 cameras so that we can put this inside a simulation environment so that these companies can actually do very proper testing and validation of their AD stack.
This episode is brought to you by Polygon Labs. They've built the AG layer, which allows for greater builder sovereignty and fast, safe cross-chain interoperability. No extractive fees, no lengthy withdrawal times, no questions about security. Visit polygon.technology/grants to apply for funding today.
Guys, welcome back to the Building in Public podcast. Alireza, you were on here with Jason a few weeks ago to announce a partnership, which is super cool. So glad to have you back and glad to talk about Natix today. You said on Twitter a couple of times that AI's margin is DePIN's opportunity. And so I thought that was really interesting and maybe not super obvious at the surface level. So I wanted you to explain that a bit if you can.
I think AI will be definitely at the forefront of this run for a reason, actually. And the intersection between AI and DePIN is just it's inevitable. It's way too large, and for me it's even intertwined. That's why I posted about it that if AI goes up, DePIN is right at the forefront of it, either from perspective of data curation, which a lot of these DePIN companies are doing, or from the perspective of compute, storage, and so on infrastructure, which is the needs of AI. So I think we're at a very good position in DePIN, one way or another, to go up with this market.
100%. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think the most recent thing I saw from either you or Natix on Twitter was this crazy near miss dash cam video. There was a Greyhound bus that almost merged right in front of, I think, another semi truck. So one, I'm glad that they had the Natix, dash cam in their car, so they have that video for insurance or whatever other reasons. But for recording the road and catching kind of accidents or near accidents, do you see the primary use case for that footage being insurance and kind of legal, or do you see it being used for training of autonomous vehicles, as in if the robot's driving this car, don't do that, don't do what the Greyhound bus did. Just curious, how you see that footage being used primarily.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna say a few sentences and then I leave to Ulrich actually to dig a little bit deeper. But that's the new direction that we're going with VX360. I mean, obviously this was just the dashcam footage, so it's just it's not capturing the entire surrounding of whatever is happening. But this is exactly a scenario, a near miss scenario that autonomous driving companies or car manufacturers, OEMs, are looking for testing when they have a new functionality on the road, right? Or they want to have a new functionality on the road. And today it's not that easy to test it. You have to build the car, ship it around, let the car drive thousands or even millions of kilometers to reproduce those near miss scenarios. I mean, you can imagine how rare that scenario was, right? Suddenly a bus coming so close to a truck, and it was literally a near miss. And these are exactly the scenarios that we want to generate with real world data, but we just want to capture it with 360 cameras so that we can put this inside a simulation environment so that these companies can actually do very proper testing and validation of their AD stack.
Just in terms of an update on where you guys are at, how many drivers, what percentage of the world map has been mapped, how is that scaled post the token launch?
So as of now, I was just checking the latest numbers, but we have over 190,000 registered drivers, over 100 million kilometers of road covered. Percentage of the global map coverage is not something we're interested in. It's just empty KPI in my opinion, because we are in the business of dynamic data, And for us, critical mass matters. So how many times a driver even repeats the same path, or how many times can we cover London in a span of, 1 month, right? This is what our customers are interested at. And therefore, like just doing spray and pray and adding to our unique kilometer doesn't mean anything. Even when we were talking with mapping companies right now, quite big ones, which I will announce a few of them soon that we're going to partner up with, these guys are looking for critical mass. That's literally the point that the story gets interesting for them to access Natix. So right now we are going to actually publish our coverage map very, very soon. I think I have showed some sneak peek to Sal, if I'm not wrong. And you can see that in our focus cities, we're doing amazing job. Like we're covering like 70-80% plus of our focus cities in a span of 7 to 10 days. And on top of that, we can also do targeted mapping by putting these kind of area-based missions with bounties essentially for a certain blind spot that we have. So yeah, unique kilometer, we get grilled a lot. Like, why don't you guys show unique kilometers? Because you don't care about unique kilometers, right? And the same thing goes with the autonomous driving use case that we are having.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Especially if you're going for less of like we're going to build another better kind of Google Maps Street View. I think for you guys, it's more about like a real-time kind of dynamic sense of what's going on in the world through the lens of, these dash cams and any other hardware software that you guys have. I mean, I honestly, the reason I thought about unique kilometers is like Hivemapper often like espouses that as their kind of KPI, which they might be voting something slightly different, but they also have all these dash cams out there also mapping the road. And I'm sure they're taking in kind of like different data points than you guys are. And it sounds like they have a slightly different vision, but do you ever think there's a world in which like you guys combine your kind of like camera networks, right? And then you have like a dual layered kind of sense of the road, or are they building something that's too different that it wouldn't make sense?
No. I think in a world that I see, and it's not, if you want to see a very good example, is not too far away. One of the best crowdsourced mapping companies in the world, Grab Maps, or the mapping division of Grab, they have the entire stack from smartphones, dash cams, all the way up to very sophisticated 360 cameras, right? I mean, this is public information. Or when you go to like, a company like iGenesis, again, they have an entire fleet. Even they use planes, to do the mapping. So the world that I see is gonna be a combination of Natix, STEM, Spexagon. This is what you need in order to really build all kinds of maps, all different dimensions, collect all kinds of metadatas and dynamic, layers on top of these maps, right? Whether we do it together or not, or whether we feed to an aggregator that does this, right? At the end of the day, maybe a big Web2 player, that is something that, it really depends on many, many factors. But, you need the entire stack to be able to do successful mapping at scale. You need from smartphones to very sophisticated, 360 cameras that are very expensive. A dash cam can never do that because of the type of the data that it's collecting, right? From imagery even point of view. So Google cars, they can create this Google Street View because they have 360 images. There are basically 4 cameras that are collecting together with LiDAR, together with a lot of sophisticated sensors, right? We always use in our pitch deck, it was also in their website, in our pitch decks as well, that yeah, we're trying to, reduce these, the cost of these huge cars with a dash cam. Well, in reality, it's not really possible. You can capture a lot of data already with a dash cam or with a smartphone, but you still do need those sophisticated fleets as well. Not as regularly, that's true, but you still need them to do high fidelity data collection.
Yeah, you said the Google Maps cars have 360 cameras. Well, so do Teslas. So I'll hand it over to Sal to talk about that.
Yeah, guys, maybe Ulrich, for you, it'd be awesome for you to tell us more about the direction you guys are going with the new product in the VX360. I remember when I first met Alireza, our first conversation was actually about fixed cameras. I think like using security cameras on buildings, and then it was early in the days of launching the smartphone based mobile mapping app. And now you guys are tapping into these like hugely powerful cameras that are on 4 wheels and rolling around on streets. So I'm curious, like for you guys, what does the device actually do first off? And then why did you guys decide to make a big bet on it?
The idea comes in that we say, okay, let's provide scenarios from real traffic, from the real world. And let's provide these scenarios in a way that these companies, car makers, can upload these scenarios in their simulation environment. Today, this is commonly used, so everybody has got these type of simulation, but very early before having such a vehicle, because you are still in the design phase, you mainly do all this work manually. So you generate the relevant scenarios and you're hoping that this is getting close to what you have in mind. But if a car maker from Japan, for example, wants to introduce a new car with an application in Europe, well, you have different countries. You have left driving in the UK, right driving in all the other countries. So you have to spend a lot of time in preparing these scenarios that they are getting close, as good as possible, to the real world. And, well, our community members drive around, capture the video streams, and we analyze the video streams, generate the scenarios, provide the scenarios, and then boom, if the car maker is interested in a right turn assist, for example, okay, cool. He can download a huge number of scenarios, and then he can check automatically if his system in the simulation environment behaves correctly. And so that's an outstanding advantage in terms of time and costs, and at the end of the day as well performance, which is, let's say, one part why we are so keen on introducing this new approach.
And regarding, the data collection part of it, to do what Ulrich just described, you need 360 video, not even imagery. You need video data because you need to do object detection. You need to track their trajectory. You need to build their behavior relative to the car itself, all right? So you have the ego vehicle trajectory. You have all of the traffic participants around it. You have the simple map. And then this is one scenario, right? And then you classify it into right turn, left turn, all these near misses that Connor, you also saw, like a crazy bus suddenly doing a lane change and coming in front of you, things like that, right? So you do need 360 video data. And if you want to, collect this data, obviously the car is the closest Euclidean distance. And we saw this opportunity with Tesla. And interestingly, the Tesla 360 camera can also, basically whenever you have video, you will also have imagery, because you can just take snapshots of that video, and that's going to be your street level imagery, which can be used to actually also make very good quality maps. And, again, yes, we have a normal GPS, we don't have depth camera, none of that, but in crowdsourcing, again, if you talk with the gurus of crowdsource mapping, they will tell you that because you do the same measurements multiple times, it averages out. As long as let's say the distribution, let's say your GPS has a certain inaccuracy, you know that it's a normal distribution. When you map a certain traffic sign or detect a certain traffic sign, 10 times over, and you account for a normal distribution error, then you can get a very, very high accuracy, right? Or relatively good accuracy for the purpose of navigation, for example. Maybe not for like HD maps, but for the purpose of navigation, which is one of the biggest parts of the market at the moment. So yeah, all in all, this is the reason why we designed VX360. It's this new hardware device. You plug it into the glove box of your Tesla, and it captures a 360 video from all of your drives. And the utility for the user is you can actually have all of these trips recorded, so all of your trips recorded and stored on the cloud. So you can very easily share. It's amazing for fleet operators that they want to know what is happening in case something happens. It's amazing for normal users as well. We collect your entire trip, but also the Sentry mode. I don't know, if you're not a Tesla user, you might not know what Sentry mode is. If you honk, if you have sudden, brake, these are kind of footages that are event-driven and are captured also by Tesla. There are some, let's say, labeling that is automatically done by the Tesla. And you can also get access to these kind of footages too, but also your entire trip.
Guys, can you explain, which car makers is this data actually useful for? Presumably Tesla already has access to it if it's coming off their cars. So curious who you're going and monetizing it for.
Well, that's completely independent, because the Tesla we use only for capturing the video streams, and then we generate the scenarios which are completely independent of these video streams. But it's important to provide these scenarios afterwards in the format the OEM is using for its simulation. And worldwide, you have a handful of companies which have tools and software for this simulation. And therefore, we will just provide all these different formats, and then the user, which is the car maker, will just download the scenario in a dedicated format and done. So you will even not see anymore at the end of the day that this is coming from a Tesla vehicle.
But at the end of the day, Sal, any car manufacturer that wants to build level 3, level 4, or wants to deploy level 3, level 4, they are interested in these kind of scenarios. And any autonomous driving company, let's say Waymo, there are a bunch of them right now that are around, they would be interested to build their autonomous driving systems to tap into these scenarios. I mean, we just also talked very interestingly, we just had a conversation with a very successful company. They recently raised over $200 million to build their own autonomous trucks. And their approach is also scenario simulation first. And that is why they're one of the first companies that they claim they will bring the, autonomous trucks into the world, right? And even they were, saying that there is definitely lack of real world data. And any autonomous driving company is kind of really struggling with this to get millions of kilometers of footage from real world data. So yeah, in a way, if you wish to call us, we're going towards the direction of GetGrass, but for autonomous driving data.
All right, pause. I did something differently this episode, and that's using the Messari Copilot tool to research and prep questions beforehand. Check it out. And I've done some background research a little bit, so I know kind of what the latest is. So the VX360 is definitely the top thing that I wanted to see here. That's by far the biggest announcement from Natix recently. And there's staking, which is interesting. I did not know that Natix had staking. Latest price, 0.00123 cents. CoinMarketCap says 0.001245, so very close. I'm sure CoinMarketCap's pulling from a bunch of different places. What's great is there's a bunch of sources here, so I don't even have to trust Messari. I can go click through and check this out. All in all, really cool tool. I'll definitely use it again. And now back to the show.
How do you think Tesla thinks about, or is there any risk? We used to talk for Helium about like risk that Comcast or the ISPs would shut them down. We used to talk about Grass, about Reddit, maybe cutting off access somehow. Is there a risk for you guys that Tesla decides that this is adversarial to their core business?
There's a level of risk, but I'll be very honest with you. I don't think they will cut down the entire functionality of dashcam storage for the users. It's too big of a deal for them to just cut it from one day to another. Second of all, we're not really stepping on their toe. I think Tesla's approach is a little different. So we're using this data for testing and validation. Tesla also uses it for training. And for training, you need more, metadata as well next to the driving footage. You need the steering data, you need the brake and gas data, essentially how the driver is really behaving in different scenarios. So that's why it's not directly stepping on Tesla's toes, and that's why they're not, necessarily. It's not the biggest, let's say, deal breaker for them. On top of that, Tesla is not the only manufacturer that VX360 is going to be compatible with. We have already identified and tested quite a few of them that are integratable with VX360. So we're going to roll them out as we go. It's going to be the same hardware. Different cars have different ports, right? So for Tesla is USB-A. For another car could be a USB-C or whatnot. That's why we have a box and then a cable. So this, with a simple change of a cable, the box can just be adapting to other car manufacturers.
Is there some number or a goal on the number of nodes by which you guys feel you're pretty much covered like every real world driving scenario, and the incremental video for you guys is not that valuable?
I think number of nodes might not be the best indicator. I also would love to know what Ulrich thinks, but I think hours of driving could be a better indicator, because from what I know, and Ulrich, correct me if I'm wrong, but you need thousands of kilometers of driving to generate an organic, let's say, not a man generated, but an organic near miss scenario. And the more complex these near misses get, the more interesting they also get. They're more rare, right? So yeah, I would say it's more about the hours of footage, or the kilometers driven of footage, useful footage that we're going to get. But from node point of view, our goal is to be anywhere between 10 to 100,000 by end of 2025. And from kilometer, I think Ulrich is a better judge to say what would be a good amount of kilometer of our of footage contribution that would be meaningful for us to generate enough scenarios.
You typically have to go several 100,000 kilometers if you introduce a new car. And then, depending of the type of vehicle, you have to go for an average speed, which leads to the amount of hours that you have to drive. So it's very different. But the point is, we do not focus on, let's say, the amount of kilometers or hours or whatever. We focus on scenarios, which means it's exactly the application you're looking for. So if you want to introduce a lane change, okay, go to our webpage, download the scenarios which are related to lane change, and you have boom, 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 many of lane changes, and everything in between is probably of no interest. If you're interested in that as well, you can download that stuff as well, because then it's kind of like following or just driving in your own lane without a leading object. So also this is a scenario. And that means the customer will receive exactly those scenarios he is exactly interested in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Almost kind of like a search engine or Google for
Exactly. Yeah.
scenarios on the road. Like that's what the front end would maybe look like for your customers.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's super cool.
And everything in between, by the way, I think I just realized that it's super interesting. Everything in between, we're also going to monetize for street level imagery for map making. Because many of the things that are not necessarily interesting for autonomous driving, which is exactly everything in between, right? Where no scenario, where no interesting thing happen, it's just driving footage, which has all of the map attributes. It has the bus lane, it has the bus stop, it has the traffic signs, it has the traffic light, all these kind of other information that is not necessarily interesting. So yeah, it's basically we're trying to really utilize this to the max.
100%. I want to talk about another big announcement that came out from you guys recently, which I think is huge, is first paying client. So that's super exciting. What can you tell us about them? If it's not like a company name, obviously it could be like the industry or the use case or the contract size, but just curious to hear about, the first demand you're getting on the Natix network.
So they're a big data aggregator player. And they're interested in the geospatial data and the map attributes that we're collecting, and that's what we're working with them. The good thing is that they're scaling with us, so that's the beauty of the contract that we signed. So the more users we have, the more data we generate. Automatically, this means more revenue for Natix, right? So we just integrated with them. There are a couple of other ones in the pipeline, which we're signing at the moment, so they're at hand. Few of them are really, really big names. I hope that we can even announce. The problem with the data aggregators are they, we cannot announce their names unless we give them exclusivity. And we didn't want to give them exclusivity because that comes at the price of us not being able to, monetize that over and over again, the same data. So they want exclusivity because they don't want their competitors to know where the source of data is. That's why they're good at the end result of aggregating data and selling it to the end customer. So they don't want customers going behind their back or other data aggregators to go behind their back, right? So that's kind of where our hands are tied. But there are a couple of other players that we're signing that they're not necessarily data aggregators, they're partners, they're just, building maps on their own as well. And these guys, we can actually announce their name because they don't really mind at the end of the day. So yeah, that's kind of the first customer that Natix signed, but quite a few that we had just from map attributes and map data. By the way, on autonomous driving is something we're working on, but I think in the next few months we're also going to sign our first partners and data customers. Essentially, we're talking with quite big players in the field. As I said, companies who have either raised hundreds of millions of dollars or companies who are having autonomous driving fleets already deployed out there, automotive, or really, really large, like, system integrators and guys who are actually, helping in one way or another, building this autonomous driving stack. So these are kind of the companies that we're having conversations with. And yeah, I think hopefully by end of Q1, early Q2, we're going to close a couple of clients as well. So our goal is that by the time VX360 goes live, there would be already customers from day one. This is our second DePIN product, but we have the opportunity right now to do things better, faster, more efficient. That's why I don't know if this would be a good argument, but we probably would be one of the very few DePINs that, a new product goes out and there are customers on the other side from day one. So let's see if we can make that come to reality, but I think we will know soon.
For sure. It's exciting. It sounds like the pipeline is healthy. What additional supply side scale or maybe new products in addition to the VX360 do you think you need to develop to continue ramping like the demand side? So I know HiveMapper's done a lot of work on like building out a UI and like cleaning the data and all that kind of stuff. Like, where are you guys at on the product side? Maybe not hardware product, but like website kind of like offering UI. Where are you guys at there? And where do you want to take things in terms of product?
So all of the stuff that you said, we also have those challenges, let's say in terms of scenario generation, who are partnering up with guys who have very advanced computer vision AI capabilities. That means they can do object detection, trajectory, they can build the base maps. This is not something that you can easily build in-house, right? That's why we're even, working with guys who have this, and usually autonomous driving companies, the guys who have AD stacks, who have, like Waymo, for example, is one of the big names that you guys might know. These guys can very easily do that, and they would be customers as well. So yeah, this is kind of our challenge as well, to clean the data, to generate scenarios, to classify the scenarios. This is something that we're going to do. Interestingly, Ulrich has been working on scenario classification. We're talking with, again, large guys in the industry, and they know how to generate scenarios or a long, let's say, trip into the scenario, but they don't know how to classify them into different interesting, let's say, events like lane change, right turn, left turn, all these kind of interesting scenarios. And Ulrich has been working on this for many years. I think he started this 7-8 years ago. Multiple PhD students were funded by his LiDAR company. So this is kind of an in-house knowledge that we have as well, but these are the things that we need to develop in order for us to build that, like you said, Google search engine for scenarios for OEMs.
100%. And I mean, even beyond having a first paying client, the second step there that I think a lot of DePINs maybe not neglect, but it's just something that needs to be paid attention to, is actually accruing that revenue to the token. So it looks like you guys have burned around 42 million Natix tokens, maybe a bit more. That's like around 50K at current prices since July. So I'm curious, how does your demand accrual work to the token? Is there a percentage? How is it split up? Is it programmatic? Like, how does that all work?
It's 40% of the revenue that we have dedicated towards buyback and burn. This can change actually over time, subject to voting governance. But at the moment, it's 40%. And yeah, this was our first burn. We're gonna have the next burn as well in the next few weeks. So we'll try to do this even more regular at the end of the day, which is a good sign. Hopefully, we can even automate this at the end of the day. But we're working towards that. I mean, look, we're a startup still. Like sometimes, not everything, even from data sales point of view, is not automated. We have to work with the customer. Sometimes the first batch of data that we give them is in a form of data dump. It's not necessarily an API that we have created that they automatically get the data, and then we work towards building an API with them, right? So yeah, I'm not claiming that we are Google Map size, but I think we're on the right track. And for example, for us to get that client, even if it was in the form of data dump in the first data that we gave them, or for testing purposes, this was a big enough a step, and we wanted to show that there's product market fit for whatever we're doing. And yeah, the goal, I would say, for Q1 is to generate quote unquote scalable revenue with focus on scalable. And these components that we just talked about, Connor, these are components that we need for scalable revenue. So aside from the business development that we need to do to find the right customers, but all of these components that you mentioned, they're crucial.
Yeah, it's a process. You gotta have something to sell first, then sell it, and then accrue that revenue to the token, and then kind of automate things as you go along and make it more scalable, make your life easier. So that all makes sense. Is there anything else you guys want to hit that we haven't covered yet today? Because we're coming up on time, but I just wanted to give you the floor.
I think no, but just to your audience, if you guys have a Tesla, I would invite you to go to our website, natix.network, and order one of these, bad boys, VX360. I think right now it's a very good deal actually that we have. So there would be an additional bonus coming for the first 1,000 devices. It's on discount, and you will get some additional Natix bonus, which was just, we wanted to reward our early users and early contributors. So if you have a Tesla and you don't have a VX360 yet, I would say now is the time. It's running quite quickly, actually. We're about to finish the phase 1, hopefully before end of the year.
Yeah, if I've learned anything in DePIN, it's to get involved early. That's for sure. So, guys, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a really, really great update. A lot of exciting developments that are going on with Natix and the Natix network, and appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, guys.